folks, they're all virtual. It's being
I know, but
that's virtual.
virtual means that there's no one in there, everybody's on Zoom. And we're not doing that anymore, so it's not virtual. I mean, people have the ability to walk in here and sit down in the audience, and
All right, well, I did take virtual off.
you did,
Okay.
you did, that's why.
You are live.
Okay, at this time, I'm gonna call the Board of Aldermen special meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are here today to take up one item. It's listed as executive session. I don't see a need to go into executive session. This is the approval of the school bus workers collective bargaining agreement. We do have two members of our board on the phone who will be participating, Joanna Carloni and David Gidwani. In attendance is Anthony Simonetti, Bernie Simons, John Anglaise, Eric Pearson, and Chris Macy. Also, we have our corporation counsel and our school bus director, Ken Knapp. So the contract has been agreed by the union. They took a vote last week and they ratified the agreement that we've worked on over the last several months. I'm going to ask corporation counsel Fran Teodosio to come to the podium and give an overview of what the contract looks like. And then we'll open it up for discussion and some questions. So Fran.
Thank you, Mayor. With your handout, you all got the most salient points of this contract, but before I started it, I just want to explain that this is the first time where we have a contract in place with the bus employees. Bus employees are both the drivers and the monitors. And that's because we took over the responsibility for the bus operation. Bus operation was taken over from Durham, and some of the employees, not all of the employees who were covered by this contract, had originally worked with Durham. There was no transition between a set of contract employees or a group of contract employees between Durham and us. So the union that we negotiated with needed to be recognized in January of 2020. And then we negotiated the contract that you have in front of you. The contract.
Fran, can you just explain to the board very briefly what's involved in the union or our employees petitioning the state for bargaining unit status?
The group just can't walk in and say to us, we want you to negotiate with us. They have to be certified by the state of Connecticut. There has to be a vote, and then we get to review the vote, and the unit is recognized. That happened in January of 2020.
And the city did not object.
Correct. City just wanted to be sure that we were negotiating with a recognized representative of the group. Because there is a little bit of competition out there among unions to be the entity that represents. That's something we don't get into. We just essentially accept the vote of the union as certified by the state of Connecticut and then start discussions with the union. January of 2020 was, as you know, the start of COVID. The contract reflects the dynamics, the history of that negotiation period, in that you'll see that the raises that we provide are only retroactive to April of 2021, even though the contract duration starts in January 2020. The benefits that we are providing are somewhat consistent with other benefits that are provided through your collective bargaining agreements within the city, but you have to understand that the unit is primarily, if not all, part-time workers. so that the benefits reflect that. But the benefits are 8 paid holidays, and I'm showing you a $10,000 life insurance benefit for each employee. Now, the reason it says 10,000 is that many of the bus drivers are retirees, and some of them are getting to the age of 65. There's a protocol within the insurance industry to decrease life insurance by half at the time an individual reaches 65 years of age. So that's why the insurance is essentially provided in a step down, and the union agreed to this. It's reflected in the premium also. We've also provided an alternative savings plan for them, alternative social security plan. Again, it's a benefit that retirees prefer, and it was accepted by the union. I believe you're familiar with that. It's offered to other unions within the city. We get to the wages. I alluded earlier to the circumstance of the contract starting in January of 2020, but wages being retroactive at 5% from the signing back to April of 2021. And then there is a 2% increase in September of 2021 and a 2% increase in September of 2022.
Frank, can I just clarify one point that when you say retroactivity is only for employees who were employed at that time?
That is correct. That is correct. The group that we have right now. Okay. And in your contracts that were distributed, if you go to Article 23, you can see the specific rates that the various drivers and monitors are being paid or will be paid. You do not have attached to the contract a seniority list. You do not have attached to the contract the drug and alcohol policy or the alternative savings plan, but those are all your standard documents that you've seen before that the city provides to its various unions with regard to responsibilities that are covered by that. Now, there is one more provision of this contract, which I am going to explain, and that's if you go to the last page of the contract, it's actually entitled an addendum, and it's purposely kept out of the contract. We offered a signing bonus to the group in order to get the group to accept, and that's $400 per union employee, monitors and drivers. It's not in the contract because it is a one-time offer from the city to get the process initiated and the union accepted it. Once it's ratified, all of the employees will get that. There has been work done on this contract by other individuals, including myself. The mayor was quite involved. Ken Nappy was involved, and I joked through the entire negotiation process that anything that was a floor issue, meaning something that was the nip and tuck or the minutia that needed to be clarified on the floor at the bus depot, that was Ken's responsibility. And Jack Basher, who has also given you a summary of this contract, helped me with the comparative contracts within the city to make sure that this was consistent and congruent with those contracts. And I recommend it very much to be accepted. I'll answer any specific questions you have about the language.
Before we take questions, I just want the record to reflect that the administrative assistant, Jack Basher, is also on the line. Okay, questions?
Specific questions?
Any question you want?
Okay. All right, page 14, Article 17, safety and health. At the bottom of the page, it says, employees shall report all defects and corrosive. Where is this? Okay, there's a reference here, reference in section 4 to the company. Is the company and the city one?
Company and the city are one and the same, and we did as many searches for the word company as we could to take out the word company and put in city, but you got us, John.
Okay, that just want to establish that. On section 6, and throughout, there's reference to the non-revenue and the non-revenue rate, and that poked my interest throughout reading the contract, because it wasn't until the very last that was explained what the non-revenue rate was. So that had me confused throughout. That's $16, and that, would you explain what that non-revenue rate, how it's paid, to whom, and how, under what circumstances?
Sure. That's a rate that's paid for our safety meetings. They're obligated to go to our monthly, every other month safety meeting, and that rate of pay is paid to them during the time. They're also utilized sometimes in the winter because we have to prepare the bus for driving, so they do snow removal and come in at that rate to provide that function.
So it's a separate rate that encompasses anything that we ask them to do outside of driving the bus.
Okay, so it just had me confused. Article 20, references Connecticut General Statute 31-57, sick leave. I'm not familiar with that. Could you, I don't need to be explained. I imagine if you referenced it in the contract that it's pertinent to the issue. So maybe you could just make sure that I get a copy of Connecticut State Statute, General Statute 31-57, just so I can be familiar with it.
Okay.
And Article
But
20.
before you go, I think it's fair to say that that is a benefit that applies to part-time employees across the board, no matter who they work for. That they have to work X amount of time, and then they're eligible for X amount of days of sick pay.
Okay. Just the reference. Okay, in Article 20, Section 6, any additional leave may also be granted if serious conditions warrant, so long as the company and the union agree. Agree on what, on the serious condition, or how the route, that bus route is going to be covered, or?
No, it's, if you have a circumstance with an employee who has some kind of extraordinary event in their life, whether it be an illness,
So you just want
a catastrophe is some type of personal issue, the city and the union could agree to extend that absent period longer with no pay, but there's no guarantee that we would come to an agreement, just that we'll discuss.
So if the city and the union agree that serious conditions exist, they'll work on giving some kind of relief to the individual for additional sick leave.
To
Necessarily mean that it's going to be paid, it just means that they're going to get time off.
right, and a lot of that is really up to our discretion.
To work out.
And I would say that over the years, long before this contract, there have been many situations where I have grant liberty to employees and department heads that had extenuating circumstances associated with health and family as an accommodation. I'll give you two quick examples. We had a police officer that was newly hired about 15 years ago, and he was called to serve in Iraq. And it was at my discretion. I allowed that individual to be paid his base pay rate for the time that he was in Iraq, because I felt that anyone that was serving our country deserved that consideration. Most recently, we had our payroll coordinator who was out on maternity leave and needed some extra time to secure accommodations for her newborn, and we allowed that to happen. And there are many examples that I can cite over the years, but I just want to give the benefit of our viewing public to understand this is all about how employees are treated here in Shelton, and there's a consistency associated with that.
I just have a question, Fran, with regard to Article 22, and I'm sure it's covered in the employee drug and alcohol policy, so excuse my ignorance about it. So from pre-placement, the drug testing is done and then it's randomly done, or only if they're unfit, impaired, or have an accident? Yeah, I guess I direct it to you.
as a condition of employment, that drug and alcohol test is administered. And then they go into a random pool, which
Program.
is administered by a third vendor, and they select the people, and they select the time that the random will be.
And that's stipulated in their handbook, that's
It's in that drug and alcohol policy.
okay,
into the
thanks.
policy.
And by the way, that is consistent with all of our city unions and
Okay.
employees.
Thank you.
Article,
Go ahead, John.
Article 21, Section 5. Employees will be reimbursed for payment of fines levied against them as a result of defective equipment or on a city vehicle being operated by them, provided that the fines do not arise from items that should have been noticed on a pre-trip inspection. And I'm just questioning the word noticed versus the use of the word reported. I noticed it, but I didn't report it.
They have a responsibility before they drive the bus to check the bus. If they notice something, they have to report it.
And just if I can, they're issued a pre-trip form where they have to go out and inspect their bus prior to leaving the yard. And it's a checklist, and that form is the notice that's sent to us daily, either repairs needed or just that they found everything to be okay.
2 words and it will
Yeah.
change it.
And again, consistent with other unions within the city that drive our vehicles, they're required to file a vehicle repair report. If something goes wrong with the vehicle before the end of the workday, there's a form that they have to fill out and submit it to the department head.
That concludes my questions. The observation I want to make is that the letter that the administrative assistant, the summary the administrative assistant gave to us, he cautioned us that the figures that he used, cost figures, are estimates. And he explained in that summary why they were estimates. So I just don't want anybody to miss that. I think it's an important observation. I don't think anybody should miss it. Because they explained, because part-time employees, difference in hours, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
Anthony?
I was gonna say, the drug testing is paid for by the city, I would think, or is it
Paid by the city.
not through their medical?
No, it's paid by the city.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, I just want to make some general comments because this school bus issue in Shelton has become the attention of disgruntled people in my view, and I think that the record needs to be cleared on a lot of this stuff. And that includes Melissa in the morning on WICC, who can't stop talking about the school buses in Shelton. You know, it's pretty clear, or it should be clear to everyone now, that there is a national shortage of bus drivers, and that there has been for a period of time. This is not a new topic. With COVID and the pandemic, it has exacerbated the situation greatly. I have said to people that the city of Shelton, in its service to school transportation, I think has been outstanding. And people, if they want to pass judgment on us, that they should compare us to everyone else. And some of the analogies I'll make, in fact, the governor was on the WICC about a week ago, and he referenced the fact that the school bus driver problem is increasing in Connecticut, and that they're trying to work through it through the state agencies. Some of you may know that before a bus driver could be certified to drive a bus, that the state of Connecticut has to sign off on it. Well, if state employees aren't coming to work, it's an extended period of time before you can get them to sign off. So that in itself extends the time that people are out of work, just as an example. And so, with that said, we started looking at this whole school bus and transportation within our city about a year ago. And I know that there's been a lot of attention given to the fact that we're doing a lot of automated upgrades with new technology that are going to greatly enhance our performance. And quite honestly, people around the state and around the country should also endeavor into this stuff. The other thing that we did was we looked at the routing, and I've talked about this at this meeting, and I want to give the board an update on our routing. Well, 2 years ago, we had a footprint of 60 routes. Today, we are 53. So the reason that we are 53 is because we have 1,500 less students in the Shelton school systems than we did back in 2009, and that footprint has not changed until now, since we've taken this over. With that said, well, 53 routes, we have 58 certified school bus drivers that are under our employment right now. 2 of which are out on, one is out on medical leave, and the other one is out on vacation. And so, with that said, I'm not sure that there are many other municipalities in the state of Connecticut that are in the kind of shape that we are in. And it needs to be talked about and noted so that the negative connotation that elected officials and people in the media are trying to cast on is just wrong. And I just also think that the only place they talk about is Shelton. They don't talk about any other municipality, just Shelton. So, again, it's a red flag for me, and I'm keenly aware of these things, and I'm gonna continue to respond to anybody and everyone who will listen. I asked our school bus manager today how many runs we've had since the beginning of school and how many runs that we've missed. And so his response to me via text message, and I'm going to share this with you, is that we have, since the first day of school, we did 2,105 runs. Now there's X amount of runs every day that we have to do as part of the routes. And I asked him how many we missed. Well, he said that we've missed maybe 2 or 3. So, and these statistics are coming right from the Board of Education. They're not made up by our employees or out of City Hall. This is what's coming out of the Board of Ed. So the other thing that people should understand is that sometimes that our runs have been longer than they should have been, longer than they normally would have been. But the fact is that we're still out there and we're still picking up kids. It tells me that our performance compared to most everyone else is pretty damn good. Given the fact that when you have superintendents of school all over the state, and I'll name just a few of them because they're the ones that are in our area. Just weeks ago, the superintendent of Newtown Public Schools, Westport, Fairfield, Trumbull, Oxford, Seymour, Derby, sent email notices home to their parents, the parents of the kids, telling them that we are greatly reduced in number for school bus drivers, and that in some situations they can expect that we will not be picking their children up. We will not be picking their children up. So parents would have to drive their kids to school. Our superintendent has never had to do that. Never had to do that. So that in and of itself tells me that our performance is pretty good compared to everyone else. So before the critics want to demean and make a public criticism for whatever purpose, and I know it's an election year, we need to look at all the facts surrounding this. And so, I'm going to continue to drive this issue because I think that we have done an outstanding job taking over this service. Our school bus drivers have been pretty dedicated, and they're the ones who are not complaining. They're the ones who are not out there publicly saying disparaging things about elected officials. In fact, they worked 2 years without a contract. And what we did is that we mirrored the benefits package and the pay package for the most part in comparison to what they were receiving from their other employer, Landmark Transportation and Durham Transportation. And so, once the union was recognized and we started to negotiate, the pandemic hit, so that delayed it a little bit. But, by and large, our bus drivers have been pretty dedicated and been pretty consistent. And yeah, we've had some days where we've had, a year ago, not this year, but a year ago, where we had as many as 17 drivers that were out. And yes, that did affect routing. That did affect our ability to pick up. But even that number in and of itself was far better than most other municipalities around the state of Connecticut. And I'm going to continue to drive that point home. There's another provision in this contract, I don't know if you mentioned it or not, Fran. The term of this contract is 3 years. Now, as you know, we have 1 year left on our agreement with the Board of Education to do the transportation. So that means that there are 2 years that are still in the balance. And we negotiated with the union that if the Board of Education re-ups the contract with the city to provide the transportation, then these are the guidelines that we'll be following the next 2 years. That's in the contract that you have before you. And I think it's important for everyone to understand that. So I'm looking, at some point in time, the Board of Education has to make a decision what they're going to do. And, you know, it's their choice. It's their call. I'll just tell you that what drove me to this point 4 and 5 years ago to challenge the school bus operation was the reason why I bought these buses. The reason why I felt that by the city purchasing the buses was important, so that we can control our own destiny, so that we didn't become hostage to the marketplace. Like, that's classic of what government does. They create monopolies all over this country in a lot of different areas, and I can give you case in point, but school bus operation is certainly one of them. Now, we're not the only ones in the state of Connecticut who own our own buses and do our own service. There's probably about 15 or 16 other municipalities that do it, and some of them are comparable to us in size. And so it begs the question, why are they doing it and why can't we do it? And so, you know, with that said, a lot of this for me was driven from a monetary factor, to be able to create a consistency in our expenditures, just like we've done with all city expenses. You know, people want to say, oh, you know, the mayor needs to give education more money. We don't spend enough. You can say that about every single department in the city, and you can say it for over 25 years, because we do spend less than everyone else. And there's a reason that we spend less. And there's a reason that we're able to keep taxes stable and consistent, so that seniors who are on fixed incomes can stay in their families. They don't have to do reverse mortgages. And so that young families who are paying mortgage payments and college tuitions can do that and stay in their house. There's a reason why our grant list grew by fivefold over the tenure of this administration. When I took office, our grant list was just under $1 billion. Today it's over 5. And it's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to grow. So when you grow the grant list, you generate more revenues. People say, how are you able to do it? That's how we're able to do it. We control spending. We take a stand on things. And I would say to those people that don't feel that education gets enough money, they should question the management and the expenditures of the Board of Education. Because that's where it starts. They're in control of their own destiny. If they want to spend their money on other things outside of the student-parent-teacher relationship, I find that unfortunate. And the last point I'm going to make about the budgetary aspect of this thing, because I know that some people on social media have tried to skew the numbers. Because I've said before public, and I'll say it again, and I brought the document with me, and I'm going to incorporate this as part of the record. This is from the Board of Education budget workshop presentation. And this goes back to 17-18, 18-19, and 19-20. And so if you look under student daily transportation, because that's what we were tasked to do. In 2018 and 19, the expenditure from the Board of Education, their contract agreement with Landmark or Durham, whoever it was at the time, was $4,005,783. When we went to court and got a court stipulated agreement to take over the transportation, we agreed to do it for $3,150,000. Now, basic math will tell you that that's about $1.2 million less in round numbers than what they were paying the year before. And we agreed to freeze that number for 3 consecutive years, of which this is the 3rd year. And so, you know, I want to tell you that because of COVID, we have had a significant savings in our school transportation account. Last year, we saved close to $800,000. And, oh, I'm sorry, the year before was close to $800,000. and this past year was close to 1.5 million. And if anybody doesn't think that that's significant and that that is reason enough for us to control our own destiny and manage our money properly and still provide a pretty good service, then there's nothing else I could say to them. And so I think it's important for our board here, all of which who come under public scrutiny and are elected officials, to understand what the real facts are behind all of this. And so, I'm going to stop there. And I want you to know that I'm going to continue to talk about this and other issues. Anybody have any questions about anything that I've said?
No questions about what you said, but I want to direct my attention to the contract and the bus drivers themselves and the good judgment that they used in ratifying this contract. And I believe that they believe by their action of ratifying it, as we do, that this contract is fair to all, to the drivers, to the union, to the city, to the schools, to the parents, and everybody involved with the school bus transportation. And it's a step in the right direction, and it's going to bring a lot of unity and a lot of cohesion to the process. And it's good that we got a contract. I'm sure the union members are relieved, and we'll go forward with a 3-year agreement that we can all work with, live with, and prosper with. So I thank everybody involved, and especially the bus drivers, for all the good things they've done. They show up on time. They've been real good about being here, good weather, bad weather. Somebody's got to recognize this, that those are the people that are out there working hard. And the other thing that's going to help the process is going to be the new system that they're putting in, that you're working hard, and it's in the process. There's so many positive things that have been done lately to enhance the bus system. With the Board of Education hiring a coordinator, which they didn't have, and that person has made a big difference. And what Mr. Nappy's done down there, putting the leadership to the bus system, and coordinating and communicating with everybody, it's been positive. And this contract negotiations and their ratification reflects all those good things. Thank you. I want to thank the drivers and those people from the city who worked so hard to bring this together. Thank you.
And John, to the last point, to your point, is that our drivers are being paid at the higher end of the scale, like of the highest paid in the state of Connecticut. Not only applies to our school bus drivers, but also our teachers. And a lot of people don't realize this, but our teachers are the 11th highest paid teachers in the state. And I have no regrets to that. You know what? Pay people to do their job and do your job. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion for ratification of the school bus contract as presented here in session.
Move to approve.
Your turn.
Move to approve the initial collective bargaining agreement between the city of Shelton, CSEA, SEIU Local 2001, covering school bus workers effective April 1, 2021. Further, authorize Mayor Mark Ready to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate the same.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. I think we've had quite a bit of discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Joanna?
Yes, I said aye.
Okay. With that being said, the motion passes 7-0. I'll now entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, meeting adjourned.
Have a good evening, everyone.
You too.